So many people nowadays, it's all a study said this. A study can say whatever you want it to say, but how are the actual top pros actually training? And so you're one of them. Coach Craig, and I'm here with none other than Nick Walker, Arnold Classic champion. He's going to the Olympia.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited for this one.
And it took about 20 minutes to get things going. We had ear problems, mic problems, and it's like technology. I don't know how to do anything. Luckily, we have people here. But let's get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about, it's a lot to do with like training. Like, how is it that you're training right now? Because you have so much muscle. You're like, what, 290 something?
292.
292 and 5'7", 5'8", somewhere around there. Yeah, that is a ton of muscle. So like, how are you training that allows you to have that much size? Because obviously you're doing something right. And I just want to hear how you train.
Honestly, for the past probably couple of years, I started doing more of like the low volume, high intensity type training. And I think that has packed on the most size on me as possible. Because even prior to that, I used to train very high volume. And I think I got great results that way. But I think that to a degree, I was probably somewhat overtraining and not giving my body enough time to recover. So even though I got good results, I think I wasn't getting the size and strength to go along with it. So once I kind of backed down the volume and was able to get stronger a lot faster. And I don't train like 2 to 3 reps. I stay in like 8 to 12, no less. And I just think that allowed me to get stronger quicker, recover a lot better. And I never have any type of struggles during training. So
okay, and so basically what I'm hearing is earlier in your years, you used a lot of volume, so a lot of sets, and kind of like Jay Cutler. I interviewed Jay Cutler, and he was big on volume, less rest between sets, doing like 30 sets for a workout and like crazy amounts of volume. But lately, you've switched over to doing less sets, but going really hard on those sets and like really getting the most out of it. More so like, I guess, like Dorian Yates, for example. Could you elaborate? Like, do you do drop sets, super sets? Like, how do you increase?
Yeah, I still incorporate all that. Like, it's definitely more volume than Dorian Yates, but just a lot less volume. So like a typical, like, so yesterday I did chest. I would do like two working sets of a cable fly. Like, they were working, but none of them were like it's a true failure. And then I went to like my bread and butter movement, which was the incline dumbbell press, which I worked up to 187, which is like, I don't know how much that in kilos, because at my 40
almost 90, but 85 kilos, 187.
Yeah, so I got 10 reps from that, and then I just did a back off set of like 160s and got 12. And then we moved over to the incline hammer strength press, where I did one top set, but I did a rest pause set there. And then we moved over to flat Smith press, and I worked up to one top set into a double drop. And then we ended with pec deck, where we just did 3 straight sets of like 12 to 15, and that was it.
Okay, so how many total hard, like when I mean hard, like how many sets failure are you doing for a body part, like chest in one?
So for chest failure, I mean, if you want to include like the drop sets and the rest pause, I'd say 1, 2, probably around 8.
Okay, so that kind of comes in line with like, and you do that about twice a week, would you say?
Well, I do like a 2-day on, 1 day off split, so I'm hitting everything. Like even on my shoulder and tricep day, I hit a chest a little bit just to pump it up. But I'd say I hit everything like 7 to 8 days apart.
Okay, so you're only training chest every 7 to 8 days.
Yeah, like I said, I hit it a little bit on like my other, like my shoulder day, just to keep blood flow in there, but like its own main day, a good 7 to 8 days spread out.
Okay, so that is a lot different than how I would be training, where I'm training right now I'm doing my whole body 3 times a week, but typically I was doing my entire body twice a week. So what you're doing is training extremely hard. I mean, you're using rest, pause, and drop sets, double drops, and so on, going super hard. And then the other workout, you're kind of doing like an easy workout for chest, just getting a pump, bringing some nutrients to the muscle. And then you do that about every 8 days.
Pretty much.
Okay, awesome. It's good to see differences in training. And this
is new for me. Now that I'm with my new trainer, he has it set up this way. So I've never really trained this way. I'm used to like having a set schedule. Like I never done really like a 2-day on, 1 day off split. I usually have like set days. So this is new for me, but I've noticed a lot of progression like this, and I do like it.
And so is it possibly that you kind of hit a sticking point, like you're gaining so much size after a while on a certain training program, high volume, for example, then you switch over to high intensity. Maybe you're training your chest twice a week, then you try it once a week. You keep mixing it up. Is that part of your training? Like, is that how you're able to keep gaining size year after year?
Yeah, I think that plays a part. I think training something so frequent so often, I think you do become stagnant. And then once you pull back, say you hit legs once a week instead of, 2 or 3, I think to a degree you're giving it rest and a lot more recovery, which in return it's going to grow more.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so would you do the same thing for all body parts? Like we've gone over chest, but what about like the legs and back? Is it different? Do you need higher reps for quads, lower reps for quads? Is there certain muscles that you train differently than others?
Well, yeah. So like I have the way like my legs are set up, like I have a quad dominant day with some hamstrings, and then like 4 or 5 days later, I have a hamstring dominant day with some quads at the end. But the reps, I always keep the reps a little higher on leg days, anywhere from like 12 to 20, really.
Okay. And do you notice that people in the gym, like I always notice people seem to, like the younger they are, they think they need to really lift heavy weights. Like they need to do sets of 5. Do you find that lifting like slightly lighter, but really concentrating on technique is important? Or is it just like, no, just go all out? Like what is the mind, like, what are you thinking about while you're lifting the weights?
I'm all about, having perfect form, perfect technique with as heavy weight as I possibly can to get the most out of the muscle. Like when I was younger, I used to be able to squat like 700 pounds on my back for like 6 to 8, but my legs didn't really grow that way. And then I realized just in general, squats weren't really my thing in terms of growth for my legs. So I would switch to the hack squat where I could still go really heavy at 8 to 12, but contract my legs a lot harder and they grew a lot faster.
And what about the speed of movement? Because a lot of, like, I always say like 10 reps for me, I'm 5'6", versus 10 reps, a guy 6'9", I just started coaching. What does that matter? Like, is it the reps or is it how long the set takes? Because you could go 4 seconds down and 2 seconds up on a squat. 6 seconds, 10 reps could take a minute, or you could just bang out real quick. It might take 15 seconds. So how long are your sets taking, and how is the speed of movement during your sets?
I'd say a typical top set, depending how many reps I do. I'm all about the negative. So like I go really slow down. I don't go slow up. I explode up, but I go a good probably 2 to 3 second negative. But they could be anywhere from a minute to a minute and a half.
Wow. So very long time under tension. I'm a firm believer in this. I think that people are lifting because obviously 700 pounds, you can bang that out if you're doing, well, if you're really strong, you can for 1 or 2 reps powered up. But imagine 400 pounds done really slowly with great control for 10 reps, way harder than just doing 700 pounds once.
Well, that's where I also think you don't really need a ton of volume if you're training that way. Because if you do it right, like say you do a leg press and it's a set of 20 and you're doing like 2 to 3 negative or second negatives, explode. Like if you're doing it properly and going a real failure, your legs are probably like toasted after that one set.
Absolutely.
You should be able to move on to the next exercise.
Now, when I was younger, I mean, I'm 46 years of age. So when I was younger, I was all about like, I'm going to lift really heavy. And my ego was there. I was squatting 365 as a teen for 12 reps, but I'm only going halfway down. It's like, if you go below parallel, such a huge difference. And so do you find that as you got older, you've been obviously at it for many years now, do you find that you have better form, stricter form, higher reps, better control? And that when you were younger, you really cared about the weights, but now that you've gotten older, perhaps you're smarter, trying to avoid injuries? Like, have you changed your methods of training from being a teenager to now?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's all about contracting the muscle to get it to grow. And when you're younger, you don't think that way. I'm going to train as heavy as I can and it's going to look good. It's going to feel good. And it's an ego thing. But I also had to remember I'm a bodybuilder, not a power lifter, but so now the way I do lift, I'm able to actually lift those weights that I used to, but contract a lot better now. So
yeah. So the weights you could lift as a teenager, now that you're, I mean, maybe 100 pounds bigger, 50, whatever pounds muscle bigger, you're actually strong enough to handle those weights, but with proper technique. And I think it's important for the younger people to realize like the older people get, the bigger they are, and you watch them train, it's almost like the less they care about how much weight's on the bar and the more they care about their form. I mean, I used to bench press all the time. I would bounce the weight off my chest, trying to get the heaviest weight possible. As I got older, I'm like, I don't want to get hurt. And I would pause every time I did a rep.
Pausing, I think, is one of the greatest things for time under tension and to build muscle without going extremely heavy.
And so it sounds like you would have to agree that leave your ego at the door and lighten the weight, focus on the mind, and you're going to get much better results.
Strength will always come, but to develop the muscle, you have to have the perfect, I won't say perfect, but the proper technique, and the muscle has to be contracting at all times.
And to learn this, because I've said before, you can read as many books as possible. And I got my master's in kinesiology, and people are studying, how do you do this? And I'm like, yeah, but you guys don't even lift weights. You don't know what you're doing. Like, how did you become an expert on technique and form and lifting? Because it doesn't come from a book. Did you watch YouTube videos? Did you have a training partner, a coach? What got you to be able to use such good technique to this day?
A lot of it was just learned over time. I watched a bunch of videos. My old coach, Matt, at the time, he taught me a lot of different things. And I also would just apply to what I know works best for me and just kind of progress with all that.
And so I've watched, and in case you're wondering, Nick Walker, he has a YouTube channel, like 150,000 followers or so. And a lot of those videos are actually how to train properly. Like, you're demonstrating the exercise, you're doing your actual workouts, because some people sit in front of a camera sounding smart and say, you need to train this way and that way because I read this study. You're actually in the gym, lifting the weight, showing people exactly what you do in the real world. You're showing your diet and so on. And so I like that, because you're showing what really is happening. And so many people nowadays, it's all, a study said this. A study can say whatever you want it to say, but how are the actual top pros actually training? And so you're one of them. And so I highly recommend people go and check out your channel, because you're actually down to earth, showing people what you're really doing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, science is science, right? But we're all different. Like everything, like even when I explain my exercise, I make it clear, like, this is how I do it. It may not work for you, but try it, and it may work for you.
Yeah, because for example, you're training your chest every 8 days. And if you read the science is going to say you should be training your chest 2 or 3 days a week for a total of 10 to 20 sets for that, for that body part. But yet you're doing 8 super hard sets. But guess what? None of those studies use bodybuilders who are as strong as you or as big as you or have been training the way you have. And so how do they really know? Perhaps for 90% of the population, that is ideal. But it doesn't apply to everyone. And so if you're doing it in this way and it's working, then it's clearly working. And when you do when you read the research, it says, don't go to failure. Don't go so hard. Don't push yourself. Save some in the tank, because it's bad. And that I'm watching you're doing rest, pause sets, drop sets. I'm watching Chris Bumstead train. Everything seems like it's beyond failure. For me, almost every set is past failure, and it's working. You look at all the top bodybuilders, and yet they're training beyond failure. And so I'm thinking, well, these studies are saying don't train so hard, but these studies are using soccer players and university kids. And so how do they really know what's really supposed to be done?
Exactly. I don't believe in leaving reps in the tank. The only time I may do that is if I'm like a week out from a show. But
absolutely, week out from the show, ready to get, you're dehydrated, getting injured. And of course, if you just join the gym, you're not going to be, okay, you're day one in the gym, watch Nick's video and watch him do a rest, pause set and drop sets. It's like, no, that doesn't work. But once you become intermediate and get into the advanced stages, you need to train in advanced techniques, because you need a new stimulus for growth. If you keep doing the same thing, your body has no reason to grow. You need to add something to it. Progressive overload, train harder than last time.
And I also believe in training in different rep ranges too. I think that also is a big component in size as well. Like for legs, for example, if you're going to do a hack squat, 1 week you could do a failure set of 6 to 8, and then the next week a failure set of 12 to 15. I think it's very important to be strong in every rep range you can be strong in.
I think that's a great advice. I also do the same thing. I mix up my rep ranges. For the most part, I stick into a higher rep range now, usually 15 plus, but I'm older, 46. I have a lot of injuries. But I know that when I would powerlift, I was a powerlifter and a bodybuilder. For some phases of the year, I do really heavy when I wanted to peak out in strength. Other phases, I did light. So I mixed it up back and forth. It kept my body guessing a little bit, kept me from being bored, because part of being good at the sport is being persistent and continuing to do this. So many people join the gym. They might have great progress for the first 2 years and then they give up. But to be a bodybuilder, it takes 10 years plus. You can't just get it overnight.
No, I agree. And that was another thing. Like, I look at the gym as my fun time, you know? So like, and this isn't against anyone, but I was never a fan of having a logbook. I always felt like that would probably stress me out, knowing if I didn't beat my numbers or anything else, like my whole workout would be ruined. So, and again, like when it comes to like the incline dumbbell press, like that was my bread and butter workout for yesterday, right? So I know what I did. I remember what I did. So next week I'll try and beat that or match it, but I don't feel the need to write everything down. You know, I like to just go in, have fun, get a good workout, that's how a lot of people are. I was never a fan of the whole logbook situation.
And I have to agree. I think fun is paramount in anything. Like I did bodybuilding, 59 shows, powerlifting 70. It was always fun. That's why I did it. It wasn't just about the trophy, the plastic trophy, or the money people keep saying. It was about the fun I get from doing it. And since I've gotten older, now I compete in bike races and it's fun. And I don't track workouts. I'm not going to say I'm going to do this many watts or this heart rate for this. I enter a bike race and I try to win the race. And exactly. It's always, and how hard am I going? I'm going to try to win the race. I'm sprinting as fast as I can to try to win. And so I'm getting a huge amount of gains. I'm benefiting from it and it's fun and it's exciting. And so long as it's fun and exciting, I'm going to keep getting better at cardio.
And that's the ideal goal. I just feel like if you get too into it, sometimes things can backfire. I train to have fun. I know I'm training hard. I know I'm progressing. And I don't need to write it down and try to beat every number. Because honestly, I don't always do the same workout week after week. I know people are really big on that. That's how they track their progress and stuff. I kind of go in like by feel, like I'm going to do this workout for today and that's it.
I think that tracking and doing that progressive overload and using the same workout, it's good when you're a beginner, intermediate, but once you get advanced, you know your body more than anyone. Like I can coach someone, but say I was coaching you, you know your body more than me. I can say, do this, but like, And so when I thought I'm going to get somebody to hire to coach me, I'm like, but they give me a program like, but that doesn't make sense because I know my body this way. And so it's very difficult to coach someone that's at an elite level. You have to take into account, what do they know? Because oftentimes they know more than you do about many aspects of their training, diet, nutrition, and so on. And so you have to really keep that into account.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why even like with this new training program, I'm always open to try new things. And if it doesn't work, it's not for me. I'll let my coach know I'm going back to my old thing and keep progressing that way. But it's working. I like the results. I like that I don't have any like aches and pains. And I think that just allows, because again, like everything is getting hit every like 7 to 8 days, but I'm still hitting those body parts periodically between those days. So it's still hitting it without really hitting it, but still allowing proper recovery before really, hitting it hard when it's time. And I see a lot of progression within each muscle. I'm never, like I said, I don't have any sore tendons. So overall, and especially being this heavy, usually when I get this heavy, everything fucking hurts at this point. But I feel great, and I like the way things are going so far.
And as far as like rest time between, I'm like really curious, like how long are you resting between these really hard sets of chest? I mean, a drop set, like to me, it takes like 5 minutes to recover. Like
typically, like, so for rest periods, if it's like if I'm working up to like, a top set, before I do that top set, I'll rest. I'll probably go 2-3 minutes before doing it. And then like when I do my back off set, I'll still rest for another 2 to 3 minutes. But with drop sets, those can take a while.
So if you do a triple drop set for chest, you might take 5, 6, 7, or even more minutes between sets.
I do it. I like to have a spot when I do those because you fail pretty quickly. So I like to have someone to give me force reps on every drop that I do. So it'll take a good 3 to 4 minutes for sure with those.
Okay, so basically after warm-up sets, so just so that people get an understanding, 2 or 3 minutes between most of your sets. And if it's a really, really hard set, 3 or 4 minutes, is that typically how you're doing your training?
Like a pause or a drop, yeah.
Yeah. And because a lot of people will actually think that the less rest they get, the better. They're wanting to rest 30 seconds or a minute. They're like, oh, I train really hard. I only rest 35 seconds between sets. And I'm like, that's cardio. I mean, what do you think? Like, do you believe that people could build as much muscle with like less rest? Like, or is it really important to get that rest?
I think it's very important. I mean, obviously Jay Cutler's, a different breed here, but I think in order to get the optimum growth, strength, and keep progressing in that direction, then yeah, I think you need longer rest periods in order to reach that certain goal. Now, when I'm in prep, I try to maintain that as long as possible, but I think everyone gets to a point where it's like, it's time to switch over a little bit. And that's when I won't say I do more volume per se, but the rest periods aren't as long.